live. Hi, everyone. Jerry here, the engineer, and welcome to another Wash Day Wednesday. Yay! I didn't have Wash Day Wednesday last week because I was I was sick, and I'm still a little bit sick. So be patient with my voice today. I'm trying to still talk, still project. So I hope the mic is close enough, and I hope you guys can hear me pretty well. But I'm super excited. Not just Wash Day Wednesday. I mean, it's kind of my birthday. Yay! As you can see, I turned 29. The birthday was actually last week, but I was a bit sick, sadly, on the day. And then I couldn't even, celebrate my birthday with you guys the day after. So we're here today. So, birthday stuff as well. So I am super excited to just spend some time with you guys today. And, for today's Wash Day Wednesday, it's actually going to be all about detangling. So detangling, personally, I feel like detangling is one of the many reasons a lot of people just refuse to go natural at this point, or not refuse to go natural. I see a lot of girls, even on TikTok, going back to the creamy crack. Everyone is kind of tired of the coily life. They're just going back to straightening their hair, which honestly breaks my heart quite a bit that everyone is straightening their hair again. I mean, nothing wrong with straightening your hair once in a while, but yes, it can be difficult or it can be time consuming, but I feel like with the right tools and techniques, it is definitely manageable to do your hair. Do any of you have issues with, you know, detangling, or you think your hair is too hard to manage? Let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion. If you have any questions about just difficulties when it comes to detangling your hair, you want more tips on how you can manage your hair better, let me know in the comments and we can have a lovely discussion. But yeah, today's going to be all about detangling. I'm going to be talking about how to ensure that your hair is tangle free before wash day, how to try to maintain your hair tangle free during the actual wash. And let's say all else has kind of failed and your hair is still a bit of a tangled mess even after wash day. I'll give you a couple tips on how you can try to detangle your hair afterwards. There's no hope. It's not like all hope is not lost. That's what I mean to say. So we're gonna just talk about everything, but just want to do a quick check-in. How's everyone doing? Are you having a good Wednesday? It's hump day. Any issues, anything, had a good day. And if not, if you're shy, it's okay. But I do hope everyone had a wonderful Wednesday today. So let me just get my notes out so I don't lose track of everything that I want to discuss today. Okay. So so the first thing we're gonna just go over is making sure our hair is tangle free before washing. Detangling your hair is challenging. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying that it is the easiest thing, but I feel like it is important for us to still be patient with our hair, because when we're not patient, we honestly do just make the situation worse. So it really is important. Yes, it can be a bit time consuming and it can be challenging, but with the right tools, it does become a bit easier, and it just makes the overall journey, the hair process that we're all trying to get through a bit easier. But I'm sorry that it's challenging for you. It can be challenging for me too. It's not just you. I think many persons can sympathize and empathize with how you're feeling. So thank you. All right, so let us now get into why detangling matters, right? So detangling is important because one, we want to prevent breakage. Breakage is one of the big things why we don't see hair growth many times, and a lot of the times when we just don't see hair growth, you think, oh, my hair is not growing, but it's not that your hair is not growing. We're just not retaining length. So that's why it is important to minimize the tangles, minimize the knots as best as we can. And when we're able to minimize the knots before while our hair is in its dry state. This also just makes the wash day process much easier, right? So it is important, especially for or type 4 girls. So if you're 4C, 4B, 4A, you know that our hair loves to get tangled, especially like as the hair shrinks down, all the little hairs just gets entwined with one another and it just becomes a tangled mess, unfortunately, right? So it is important to minimize that. So we can't really eliminate it, but we can minimize, right? And that is the goal of what we want to do. So the prep, what can we do to prep our hair to minimize all the different kinds of tangling that's going on our head? One, we want to make sure that our hair is as stretched as possible. Stretch doesn't necessarily mean you have to blow dry your hair, but stretch can mean you do your hair in twists, in braids, especially when it's going from washing your hair to drying your hair. You really want to make sure your hair is kept in a stretch state, because the minute your coils start to shrinking to your scalp, that's really where all the tangles and the fairy knots and all that matting really does start to happen. So we really want to keep the hair in as stretched a state as possible. Two, moisture your hair. Moisture is super, 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 super important. Trimming the ends before or after washing. Definitely, you want to trim your hair when it's stretched, right? So I wouldn't suggest necessarily trimming it. You can trim it if maybe you just have a knot that you really have a struggle with it. But I am getting to talking about trimming. I do trim my hair, and it does minimize the tangles and the knotting that does happen, right? So trimming really is a big thing. I like to trim, like I look at my hair, and when I see that the ends of my hair are frayed, then that's when I take my little scissors. And you don't want to just use any scissors, by the way. You want to make sure that you do have pretty good scissors that are used for hair. So as professional as can be, we don't want the hair to be cut with the dull scissors, because that in itself will cause split ends. So get a pair of scissors, and you'll find that when you do use the scissors, it's almost like a very, very smooth buttery comb. Like you don't feel that. So get a trim every now and then. If trimming is something that you tend to not do already or incorporate into your routine, definitely go get a trim, whether it's by a hairstylist, or if you want to attempt to trim yourself, you can look up a proper YouTube video for that. But trimming is important, definitely, for sure. um Back to the other point, but good point. Thank you for bringing up the trimming point. And I'll talk more about trimming again later on. But yes, we want to keep our hair as stretched as possible. Moisturizing your hair, super important. Do not detangle your hair without moisturizing it, right? How many of you try to detangle your hair without moisturizing your hair? Let me know in the comments. Have you tried detangling your hair without moisturizing it? No water, no cream. You're just going in there raw and you're just trying to detangle. Because if you have, you will find that it's even more difficult to do so, right? You don't want to detangle your hair dry. It's good to get a little spritz, a little spray bottle if you don't have one already. Spray some water in your hair, and then also like grab a leave-in cream. It's difficult, yeah. It's super difficult, right? So when you don't have when you have dry hair and you're trying to detangle dry hair, your or hair does not like that. Like our hair is already dry as is, and when we don't have the moisture in our hair and we try to detangle it in its dry state, it becomes brittle and it breaks, right? No, we just have more breakage at the ends, and if retaining length is your goal, definitely it is just not going to work out, right? So it really is important. So if you are detangling your hair and you're manipulating it way before wash day, just a little bit of water, a leave-in cream, a leave-in conditioner. I have a leave-in conditioner here. Yeah, so whether it's like a leave-in conditioner or just some water, something for the in between, you want to use something to detangle your hair way before wash day, right? But if you are prepping your hair for wash day itself, I personally like to use just a really, really big bottle of conditioner. So I would use either something like this or this. Ideally, I try to go for a conditioner that is pretty cheap, right? Because I'm not really using it for the purpose to condition my hair. I'm using it because it provides slippage, and the slippage will just make that detangling process way easier, right? So get some kind of conditioner, whether it's at your dollar store or if you can afford like an expensive bottle of something, whatever it is. But you would like something that gives your hair some slip to help with the detangling process. Any questions about that aspect of it so far? Let me know in the comments. If not, we'll move right on to the next part. Okay. All right. So that's is the other thing about just trying to detangle your hair. Another important thing is maintaining your hair at night. So how many of you sleep with a bonnet or a scarf? Do any of you sleep with a bonnet or a scarf when you go to bed? Let me know. Yes. Is there a yes? Let me know yes or no in the chat. How many of you go to sleep with a scarf, a satin scarf, when you go to bed, or a bonnet? Because if you're not, yes, good job, great job, great job. Because if you're not, that in itself will also contribute to tangling and breakage. Satin scarf, great, good job. Because it's two things will be happening. One, the friction from when you sleep. If you're not sleeping with a satin scarf or a bonnet, the the material of your pillowcase that can one absorb all the moisture from your hair. So that's one, you're absorbing all the moisture, taking that moisture out from your hair. And then two, when you toss and you turn, and let's say you did not prep your hair like in like twist, that's another thing. You want to make sure you're sleeping in twist or some kind of plaits, right? Going to sleep in an afro just like that is a big, big no, no, no. I hope you're not doing that. I hope none of you are doing that. But it's really important to maintain your hair in some kind of twist, some kind of plaits, right? Doing that, it helps to ensure that your hair is tangle free. You can toss and turn in your sleep, and you can wake up confident in knowing that your hair is good, your hair is stretched, your hair is still detangled. So these are some of the things that it's important for us to do way before wash day, and just to maintain tangle free hair, right? Um, so just to quickly summarize, all that I have said is like one, you want to make sure you keep your hair stretched in twists, plaits, whatever. Two, ensure that you're moisturizing your hair. So with whether it's water, a leave-in cream, or something, we want to be doing that, right? And then three, ensure that your hair is in some kind of a stretch state, so that way it will not get tangled. So these are some of the things that we want to make sure that we are doing before we wash our hair. Any questions on detangling our hair before wash day, before we move on to the actual wash day segment? But also, do you have any tips? Are there anything that's is there anything that you like to do to detangle your hair? What makes detangling your hair easy for you? Let me know in the comments anytime you just want to like share a tip, because I do want us all to, share with each other. I will try my best to share all the tips that I know, but who knows? Maybe somebody in the comments has like a tip for any of the topics I'll be discussing on Wash Day Wednesday, feel free to just ask your questions or suggest something as well in the chat. Oil treatments. I actually haven't gotten an oil treatment in a long time, but I do know oil treatments are pretty good. Is there a particular oil that you like to use when you get your oil treatments? When you're ready, let me know what kind of oil you like to use in your treatments. I would love to know. Before wash day to do an oil treatment. Okay. Yeah, definitely need to incorporate oil treatments more. I do like to put in oil in my hair, but I know persons, sometimes will be doing like hot oil treatments in their hair. I have an amla oil somewhere around here, but yeah, that's what I've been using in recent times before I wash my hair because it does penetrate the shaft of the hair cuticle and it helps to minimize water just flooding in to the cortex of the hair strand. So that's why I've been using oil before when I use wash day, but I'll definitely be incorporating hot oil treatments sooner. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, so we're gonna go into detangling during wash day. How many of you find that when you wash your hair, and if you're just like doing this, your hair is just even way more tangled afterwards? Let me know in the comments. Do you have issues wash with tangles on wash day after you shampoo your hair? Let me know. Let me know. Or are you tangle free? And if you're tangle free on wash day, absolutely amazing. You're doing great if you have tangle free hair on your wash day. Once upon a time, I definitely used to struggle with a lot of tangles in my hair. And honestly, I think the reason for that is I just wash my hair the way that I would see it on TV. Your hair tangled. Oh, sorry to hear that. Like, you see the girls on commercials and they just do this and, they wash their hair and they look so relaxed. And when they do that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that too. I'm just going to wash my hair like this and scrunch everything up. And then you find that your hair is way tangled at the end. It is just a hot mess. And you're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? And it's hard. You have to when your hair is now tangled, you have to make sure that you are patient. You have to be patient with yourself and just go through each and every strand. And honestly, the biggest thing when it comes to detangling is just to prevent the tangles to begin with, right? So if your hair is tangling a lot in wash day, one thing you need to definitely do is one, section your hair. Now, the number of sections in what's in how you section your hair can just depend and vary based on the overall density of hair on your head. My hair isn't all that thick. It's not that thin, but not that thick. So I like to put my hair into four sections. So one, two, three, four quadrants on my head, and I will take like a couple scrunchies, you know, to segregate the hair so that the different sections of hair don't, entangle with one another. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to make sure that your hair is sectioned when you are washing your hair. Next thing is that scrunching motion that cannot work. The scrunching motion cannot work when you are washing your hair. I always am washing my hair in a downwards motion, right? So I don't scrunch up the hair. I take my fingers and I am like combing down through my hair, and that is how I do it. I have like fake hair here, but this is like kind of tangled. So I don't know if I should use it as an example. Let me see. Okay, so hair is just like a random hair piece that I have. What I'm trying to say is when you're washing your hair, don't don't do this, right? Like a lot of people like to just like go in with their fingers like that. Oh, my earring that came off. But yeah, a lot of people just like to go in and just do this with their hair. right? If you do that, your hair is going to get tangled and it doesn't make sense. You need to take your hand like it's a comb and almost like rake down your hair, right? When you're washing it, rake it down, and that way your fingers are acting as a detangling comb. And truthfully, I do have other tools here that I do want to show you guys later that I like to use when detangling my hair, but your fingers are the best tools for detangling because you can feel all the knots and you will be patient when you encounter a knot, right? You just want to take your time and finger rake your hair through the hair. So that is how I like to wash my hair, and it keeps my hair, tangle free completely. So fingers section into four, do that. Now, let's say you don't really want to use your fingers. I have something like this that I picked up from the beauty supply store. So it is, is it plasticky, silicone, whatever it is. It has just a lot of little teeth, as you can see, right? So if I don't want to use my fingers for whatever reason, let's say my hair is really, really tangled that day and I just need extra help to get through all these tangles, I will use something like this. Just put it in the palm of my hand and then, like this, just rake down the hair, right? So just take your time and rake it down. The other thing you want to make sure that you're doing, do not start from the root and then come down. You always, 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 always want to make sure that you are starting from the tip of your hair, right? So if you have your hair, right, you don't start from the top. Make sure you are always detangling from the tip first. Once the tip is detangled, you can then slowly work your way up. And you do that for all the sections of your hair while you're washing your hair, because if you try to do it from the root, all the tangles from the bottom coming down are just going to get more tangled and you're going to have a much harder time trying to detangle your hair, right? So it is important to tip to root, section your hair, and wash your hair in a downward motion. And that's the best way to keep your hair tangle free. And then when you're done, you can either like twist up your hair again or put it in a scrunchie or something, just keep everything as separated as possible. Any questions? Any questions on how to keep your hair tangle free while washing and shampooing? ah, Sorry about that. If there are no questions, then let me see what else. I mean, this brush is not really just for like washing your hair. I also like to use this brush for, detangling in between. Excellent tips so far. Thank you. So yeah, like the brush like this, I like to use whether it's on wash day or just in between. And just like how I mentioned earlier, that your fingers do act like, or really is, they are the best detangling tool. And the reason for that is because when you are detangling, you feel the tension, right? You feel that knot. And when you feel that knot, you tend to not push through any further. A brush like this does the exact same thing as when you feel a tension in your hair because it is a flexible brush like that, right? So when you're brushing your hair, the minute it feels a knot, it does pause, right? You feel that pause and you take your time. So that's why brushes like this are also great for detangling your hair if you really need to just get the tangles out. Um, Definitely a favorite, especially if my hair really, really is a mess. Sometimes if I just don't really want to go with the brush, I just love a white tooth comb. Again, similar like the fingers. It's not getting through every single thing, but it helps to just get the hair combed out. Generally, not every single strand is not free, but it does good. We love a big comb, a big comb. If I'm not using this one, I like to use this one. So white teeth comb are your friend when you want to get some knots out. And I think after you've gotten some of the big knots or just wider knots with these, you can then go in with a brush like this to just get out the smaller knots, right? Because again, it's bends just bends like that. Do any of you own brushes like this? Let me know. Like, what kind of tools do you like to use when you are trying to detangle your hair? Let me know. Let me know. And those are the tips for the wash day portion. We're gonna go and move and talk about what to do when, let's just say, your hair is just tangled, period. The things I like to also just use when the hair is just a knotted mess, right? So we're gonna move on to that part. But any questions so far, let me know in the comments. I will read and check the comments and answer anything as I go along. Cool? So let us. Purple brush is perfect. It is. It really is like the best brush, right? Love this, especially for detangling. Okay, so we're gonna talk about like some cases where your hair is just really, really knotted. Let's talk about a case that I think a lot of women can relate to when they have in braids. Have you ever put in braids and then you find that over time you're about to take it out and the roots of your head is just gunky? Like there is a buildup that is created at the roots of your hair, and I feel like, especially when you have individual braids, that is just one of the biggest nuisance when it comes to keeping in braids way too long. Now, first of all, if you are finding that gunk at the base of your head when you have on braids, you're either not washing your hair or you have a lot of product buildup, and you just need to you need to wash it, right? A lot of us, we do tend to keep in braids longer than we should keep them in for. Like, I'm not saying don't keep it in for a month, but you got to like maintain it a little bit better, right? So let's say you have that gunk. This is also great for getting rid of that. And it makes sense if you even one of my favorite shampoos, which is the Shea Moisture Jamaican Black Castor Oil. This has apple cider vinegar in there because it helps to clarify all the gunk that you have in your hair. This you don't put it just strong in your hair like that. Like, don't just use raw apple cider vinegar straight in your hair, but dilute it for sure. So maybe like a teaspoon of this, and then you could even like put it in a bottle like this, a little tips, fill it up with water, shake it up, and you can just spray at the site where it's really gunky. This will break that up, and once that gunk is, dissolved, you'll find that it's much easier to get out those knots, right? So definitely something like this, not just when you have braids, but let's just say you have a lot of product buildup. Either you do like an apple cider vinegar rinse, or make sure to use some kind of clarifying shampoo, because if we don't get rid of all the product buildup, everything will just get knotted over time, right? So it is important to clarify as best as possible, and I would suggest apple cider vinegar is the way to do that. Cool, cool. So, apple cider vinegar, use that. Now, let's say you're combing your hair and you're realizing, as we mentioned earlier, you feel a lot of that friction at the end. If you're brushing your hair, right, or if you're combing out your hair and you find that at the end, yes, your comb is passing through, but you feel like you hear the crunch, like you heard the when you're feeling that, your ends are definitely, you have a lot of split ends, your ends are a bit frayed. That is typically the sign for a trim. So it is important to be able to trim your hair once in a while, to get rid of that, because that will minimize any future tangles. Let's just say you already have a knot, right? Single strand knots, unfortunately, there is no way to get rid of a single strand knot. The only way to get rid of a single strand knot is for you to trim it away. Give it a snip. Just give it a snip, and that is how you get rid of a single strand knot, right? So that's for a single strand knot. Now let's just say your hair is just you wear your afro all the time, and your entire hair it really is just covered. It's matted. It's gonna take time. That's all I can say. It's gonna take a lot of patience, a lot of time, and you just have to use all the tips that I gave you on your head because when your hair is fully matted, there is unfortunately just you just have to take your time and go through each knot. So whether whew, let me drink some water. So we're back. So whether it is you're gonna use conditioner, definitely use a conditioner if your hair is fully matted. Like drench your hair in conditioner. If it's full of product buildup, get that apple cider vinegar diluted with water, right? And get a brush that is designed for getting out the knots. You just have to bring out all the big boys at this point, right? You just got to get everything and really, really take your time to get through all of the different tangles. Like I've been there. I don't know what I did this one time, but like my hair, it was just fully knotted. I think it was how I washed it to be honest. I don't think I had detangled properly before the wash day. And then unfortunately, washing it like this just made it even worse. And by the time I came out of the sink, it was like my hair was a mess, and like me and my family, we just struggled to get all the knots out. Like we used all kinds of brushes to get it out, and unfortunately, that did result in a lot of breakage. Like the thing with some of these tangles is you're not really going to escape unscathed all the time, right? Which is why it's important to really, really prevent the tangling from happening to begin with, because sometimes you really just end up losing a lot of hair. And it's sad. It's sad when it happens, but what are you going to do? Right? It's either that or you big chop, and we're not doing that. So it's really important. All the tips I have mentioned. If you miss any of the tips, just rewind on this live. But important to make sure we remain tangle free before wash day, tangle free during the actual washing session, and if you were just having a tangle mess, just take time to detangle your hair. But if you've learned anything so far from this live, give it a like, hit up, let me know, what have you learned? Is there anything you've taken away so far from this live? And is there something that you have a question about? Let me know in the comments and I'll be very, very happy to answer anything. So those are the tips for if your hair just has like knots, single strand knots, and just your hair just really matted. Truthfully, the game is all in patience. The main thing that we can all do is just to be patient when we are detangling. It's not easy, and I know it's not an easy journey to have natural hair. For me, I've had natural hair my whole life, right? And this is all I know. And I think because this is all I know, I don't really like complain too much. Like it can be frustrating at times, but like it's never enough for me to say that, oh, I want to like process and straighten my hair, right? But I know a lot of girls, they are frustrated with their hair, and that's why I really do try to share the tips that I do use, because I really want persons and others to realize that, hey, the process and journey of taking care of our hair and loving our hair isn't all that bad. Like, yeah, we may not have straight flowing hair, so there's no like simple brush just like that, but it's definitely doable. It's definitely possible to manage our hair, and our hair is beautiful. And I feel like when we just complain about our hair all the time, it really just like you just demonize your hair a little bit, and I don't think we should be doing that. I think we just need to really give our hair some love, some respect, and just some tender love and care and patience. And I think once we do all of that, our hair will feel the love, and when our hair feels the love, it will flourish and it will repay you by just being all awesome and beautiful as it is. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you have anything else that you guys want to talk about. But I think that is basically it for the live. Again, I just celebrated my birthday, so I'm so happy. I'll be celebrating all month long. So this is not the last time where we'll have a conversation, have a chat. But for now, that will be it for the chat on detangling. Thank you so much for spending time with me on this wash day, and I will see you all again next week Wednesday for wash day Wednesday. If you have not left a like, leave a like on the live, leave a comment if you learned something, or if there's just something that you have a question about. I will definitely answer your question in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you're into natural hair, beauty, and self-care. That's what we talk about here at the njeri. So thank you everyone, and you have a lovely Wednesday evening. Have a good night. Bye.